A self-loathing has swept our country. Joe and Kamala even say America's racist. This is not about identity politics. I don't believe in that. And I don't believe in glass ceilings either. Strong and proud, not weak and woke. That's the America I see.
The only challenger so far to Donald Trump in the 2024 presidential race kicks off her campaign. During that speech, Nikki Haley took a dig at her former boss and President Joe Biden. We'll play for you those comments.
Hey, Willie, and this is a problem I think Republicans are going to have as they run throughout this entire cycle going up to 24. Nikki Haley talked about, she's proud, we're proud, and we should be proud of this country and strong of this country. I completely agree. It's unfortunately, it's Donald Trump and Republicans that have blindly followed him through the years, including Nikki Haley, who have been the first to talk about how horrible America is, talk about how terrible our military is, how they'd rather have the Russian military than the American military, that support a president and have always supported a president that loves the Russians, KGB leader, more than our intel community. So they trust the Russians more than they trust our own intel community. They're the ones who sit back quietly and pay homage to people who say that the United States military is bringing helicopters from Afghanistan to the United States to hunt down people who voted for Trump, that say our premier law enforcement agencies are the ones that kick down doors because they're going to drag people off to jail who voted for Donald Trump. They're the people that constantly drag down this country, constantly trash our institutions, constantly trash the men and women in uniform, claiming that they're weak and that they're woke. And so, I kind of think, and we can talk to Meacham about this too, but this is exactly what left-wing radicals did in the 1960s. This is something that gave birth, and I know because I was there listening to my parents and other people, this gave birth to the conservative movement of the late 60s and the 70s. The America love it or leave it. If you hate this country so much, if you hate the United States Armed Services so much, if you hate our intel community so much, if you hate the men and women in the premier law enforcement agency, the FBI, that protects us every day, if you trash teachers, you hate our schools, you think somehow we can't even let our kids read books about Roberto Clemente and Hank Aaron, problem's probably not with the other side. The problem's probably with you. And until somebody has the guts, until somebody is actually strong, until somebody actually is willing to take on those lies that Republicans have been feeding Americans time and again. And by the way, they've been losing. And the lie about American democracy being broken, the lie about elections being stolen, the lie that you can't trust American democracy anymore. You got to take on those lies. You got to tear those lies to the ground, and you got to build up America. You got to build up America's armed forces, say it's stronger than ever before. You got to build up America's intel communities. You got to thank them for all the great work they're doing. You got to build up the very things that, again, leftists tore down in the 1960s and 70s and that Vladimir Putin wants to tear down now. If you can't do that, you can't be president of the United States.
Well, to separate yourselves from that list that you just provided, which I think covered almost everything, including the fact that Donald Trump is still calling the FBI the Gestapo because they exercised a search warrant to find classified documents at his beach club. To separate yourself from all of that is to separate yourself from Donald Trump. And that's the fear all these candidates, including Nikki Haley, who worked for Donald Trump, criticized him later and said after January 6th, he led us down a path we should not have followed him. Those were her words to Politico. Well, how can she say that when she has followed him down so many of these paths? And that is the dilemma, John Meacham, it seems to me. For if you look at the people who are running, who may run, Mike Pence, if you look at Mike Pompeo, if you go all the way down the list, there are people who have gone along for the ride. And most of the time, with some exceptions, Mike Pence right at the end, gone along for the ride with Donald Trump. So how now do you run against a guy? How now do you separate yourself from Donald Trump?
Yeah,
Will you count on a short
question
attention?
John Meacham. I'm sorry, John. I was just going to go to you, John, really quickly. You got to do something that Ronald Reagan always did, but these Republicans don't do. These Trump Republicans don't do. You got to talk about what's right about America. Look at our past sins, all right? But also talk about what's right about America, because these people have it backwards. They don't want to talk about the problems we've had on race in the past, right? But they want to trash our military today. They don't want to talk about Roberto Clemente's story or Jackie Robinson's story or Hank Aaron's story, but they want to trash law enforcement agencies today. They want to defund the FBI. They've got it backwards.
Yeah. I mean, classically, fear is a great starter, but it is not in American politics a good finisher. And I think the most interesting thing that Governor Haley has said in the past couple of days that I read was she pointed out that the Republican Party has not won the popular vote for the presidential election, I think, since 2004. If you broaden that a bit to use a biblical 40 years, that's for Willie, because I know he thinks in biblical terms.
He does.
There are only 3 people in the American history who have, on the Republican ticket, who have won the popular vote: Ronald Reagan, and the other 2 were named George Bush, 1988 and 2004. That tells you something about where the country, or at least 51% of the country, actually is. And this campaigning to the narrowest possible number that can be relied on is maybe good for a primary, but it's fatal, and we almost saw it literally be fatal, to the American experiment. We do ask people to actually transcend their appetites and ambitions when they get to the positions of power. It's kind of a Edmund Burke thing, right? It's sometimes a representative owes you a reflection of your will, and sometimes they owe you their best judgment. And presidents, in particular, owe us their best judgment. The last thing I'd say on this is anybody who runs for president, if I could grab them for a second, I would say the things we tend to remember about presidents, and as Bill Clinton will tell you, everybody gets a sentence, and maybe not that, right? Lincoln saved the Union. FDR won World War II. You know, you think about what do you want your sentence to be? What that sentence almost always is about transcending your own limitations and that you've imposed on yourself to get to power. And so transcendence is the key to historical greatness, and that means telling people who sent you there that they might be wrong. And there's nothing in the Republican primary electorate that says people are interested in hearing that they are wrong.